Here is my 1619 podcast reflection. While listening to the podcast, what moments, concepts stood out to you the most? Why? The first moment that stood out to me was when she said they've been made black by those who view themselves as white. At roughly time 3 minutes and 35 seconds in the first one, the first episode. The reason why this stood out to me was because this seems really racist. Because in my eyes, it seems as though she's calling white people superior to blacks. Additionally, which just isn't true. And additionally, the quote fails to consider that other blacks originally were enslaving other black people, and then sold to other nations. So it's not necessarily just white people owning slaves. It was everyone was owning slaves. The second moment that stood out to me is when she said she felt embarrassed by her dad flying the American flag in her yard, which is just the reason why it stood out to me is because it's like such a foreign concept to not love the country you're from. I get it. She gets into it later, like I don't know, she just didn't like the country, but that's just like I like America. Okay, what can I say? Third one, Lincoln said that slaves and non-slaves both suffer, and the non-slaves suffer just from the slave's presence. Like, first of all, that's really harsh. I didn't think he'd say that. Like, I thought Lincoln was much better than that. I get what he's saying, but at the same time, that's just way out of left field. Was not expecting that. Additionally, the next thing that stood out to me said that slaves were the cause of the war. Well, this is true. If there were no slaves, there wouldn't have been a civil war. It's just a little harsh, Like, it's a little too harsh. And the fifth thing that stood out to me is the civil rights movement was never about black rights, but about making the Constitution whole. I think that was very true. It was the first major building block for making everyone have the freedoms that we now enjoy today, which is great. We should do more of that. Next slide. When the Declaration of Independence and Democracy was originally written, was it meant for all people living in America? Why not? I said yes. The Declaration of Independence was meant for everyone because Thomas Jefferson, the first revision, he was trying to include things about slavery, talking bad about it and how we shouldn't have it, But then it was struck down. So I'd say yes, it is. But then it later got ratified to not being, and then 13th Amendment, made it. So it was for everyone. Do you think race should be taken into consideration when understanding our current political system? I said yes. I do think race should be taken into consideration when understanding our current political system, especially when you're looking at the history of our political system. However, I don't think you should give certain races certain privileges or burdens based on their race. That was my stance. With that being said, here is my sources, the presentation that you provided, and that's it. Yay.